The stars above the palace glowed softly that night. The sky was quiet, and the alien moon floated like a silver coin above the city. Inside the tall palace walls, voices echoed from the grand banquet hall. Music, laughter, and lights filled the rooms. The nobles from many star systems had come together for a peace celebration. Humans were among them, finally trusted after long years of fear and misunderstanding. A young human cadet named Ben had been given a guest room near the East Wing. He wasn't a commander or diplomat, just a student in training. Still, he had been chosen to attend as a symbol of trust between humans and the alien kingdom. Ben didn't enjoy the noisy parties. He preferred quiet places, books, and staring out into space from his window. He sat alone in his room, the lights dim, reading from his datapad. His jacket hung neatly by the door, and his boots rested beside the bed. Everything was calm until the door opened with a soft click. Ben looked up, surprised. Someone stepped inside slowly. It was a girl not human. She had smooth, pale blue skin and long dark hair that shimmered like midnight water. Her eyes were bright, like small moons, and her expression was nervous. She looked around as if she had made a mistake. Hello, Ben said gently. Setting down his datapad. The girl froze. Her eyes widened, and her hand touched the wall, as if she were ready to leave again. I didn't mean to. I thought. She spoke softly, her voice like a breeze. This isn't the garden. Ben smiled, standing up slowly so he wouldn't scare her. That's okay. You're not the first to get lost in this place. It's like a maze. The girl's shoulders relaxed a little. She looked down, unsure what to do next. Would you like to sit? Ben asked, stepping to the side. She hesitated, then gave a tiny nod and walked in. She moved like a shadow, quiet and unsure. She sat at the edge of the small couch near the window. Ben returned to his chair but kept his eyes on her. You don't like the banquet? He asked after a moment. She shook her head. Too loud. Too many eyes. Ben understood that feeling. Yeah, same for me. I like the stars more than speeches. She looked at him then, really looked. Her eyes softened. You're human. Yes, he said, smiling. Ben, and you? She paused, then whispered. Lyra. A moment of silence passed, the kind that felt peaceful, not awkward. You can stay here for a while if you want, Ben said. No one will bother you. Thank you, she whispered. I just needed some quiet. For the next few minutes, they didn't speak. Ben returned to reading. Though he kept glancing at her, she looked out the window, watching the stars. With calm eyes, something about her felt fragile, like a falling snowflake, and yet she didn't seem afraid of him. Eventually, Lyra asked, Why do you read if the world is already full of noise? Ben smiled. Books are a different kind of noise. They listen, too. She didn't answer, but her eyes stayed on him longer than before. Then a soft chime echoed outside. Lyra stood quickly. I should go. Ben stood too, not wanting to make her feel trapped. Do you need help finding the garden? She shook her head. No, thank you, Ben. She moved to the door, then stopped. She turned her head. Slightly. Your room is quiet. I like that. And then she left. Ben stood still for a while. The silence deeper now. He didn't know what had just happened, but he knew that girl hadn't come into his room by mistake. Not really. Something had led her there. He sat back down and looked at the door. And deep down, he had a strange feeling she might come back. The next night came quietly. The lights of the alien palace dimmed as the last songs from the banquet faded away. Ben sat in his room again, reading, but his eyes kept going to the door. He tried not to expect anything, but a small part of him hoped, and then, the soft click of the door. He looked up. Lyra stood in the doorway, just like before, but this time, she held something in her hands. It looked like a small silver plate with glowing fruit slices, bright green and blue. Almost too pretty to eat. I brought something, she said, her voice quiet but calm. Ben smiled, standing up. For me? She walked in, gave a small nod, and set the plate on the table. These are from the royal table. I thought, maybe you'd like to try them. Thanks, Ben said. Sitting down. Do you want to share? She hesitated, then sat across from him. She picked up a piece, held it between her fingers, and took a tiny bite. Ben copied her. The fruit was soft, sweet, and a little cold. It reminded him of earth berries, but with a strange aftertaste like mint and stars. Good, he said with a smile. You made a face, she replied, watching him closely. Ben laughed softly. A surprised face. Not a bad one. Lyra looked, pleased but said nothing. They ate in silence for a while. Then Ben asked, how was tonight's banquet? Louder than before, Lyra said, setting her fruit down. Too many voices, too many rules. Don't you get to choose what you want to do? She shook her head. Not really. They say I will. One day. But for now, I must listen. Follow the path chosen for me. Ben leaned back. That doesn't sound fair. It's how things are, she said, almost like she was trying to believe it. But do you like it? Lyra looked at him for a long moment. I don't know what I like yet. Ben nodded. Sometimes you figure it out by doing things that aren't expected. She tilted her head slightly, as if his words were new. Like coming to your room? He smiled. Maybe. Is it what you want? She looked away for a moment, then back at him. Yes. It's quiet, and you don't talk like the others. You listen. Sometimes that's more important than speaking. They sat there, sharing the fruit, and letting the quiet wrap around them again. Outside the window, the stars twinkled like tiny lanterns. In the dark, can I ask something? She said after a while. Sure. Do humans really laugh when they are happy? Yeah, Ben said. It's how we show joy. We're taught to hide our feelings, she said. To remain calm at all times. But it feels heavy inside. It helps to let it out, he replied. Even a small laugh or a smile can make you feel lighter. Lyra tried to smile then. It looked awkward, unsure, but it was real. Ben grinned. That's a good start, he said. She laughed softly. Not loud, not big. Just a sound like sunlight breaking through clouds. Ben felt warm inside. Do you want to come back tomorrow? He asked gently. Lyra didn't answer right away. Then she nodded. If it's okay. Of course, he said. This room's always open to you. She stood slowly, walking to the door. Thank you, Ben, she said, turning back one last time. This feels like my space now, too. He watched her go, the door clicking shut behind her. Ben sat for a long time after that, staring at the spot where she had been. Something was growing between them, soft and slow like the rising moon. He didn't fully understand it, but he knew one thing. Lyra wasn't just visiting anymore. She was choosing this space, choosing him, and that meant something. The third night felt different. Ben had placed a small cushions near the window. He didn't know if she would return, but something inside told him she would. He even saved a few sweets from the dining hall just in case. And when the door clicked softly open again, his heart felt lighter. Lyra stepped in, her hands behind her back. She wore a simple robe this time, not the shining royal cloth she had worn before. Her long dark hair was tied in a gentle braid, and her steps were more relaxed. Hi, Ben said with a warm smile. Hi, she replied, her voice still soft but not unsure anymore. She held out something, a small glowing cube. For you. Ben took it carefully. What is it? A story crystal, Lyra said. It plays music and light. It's from my childhood. I thought you might like it. Thank you, Ben said, touched by the gift. Can we watch it together? She nodded and sat on one of the cushions. Ben joined her, and when he activated the cube, it glowed with soft colors and played a melody that sounded like water, wind, and stars. It painted images in the air, dancing shapes, flowers from another world, and glowing creatures that moved like fireflies. Lyra watched with quiet eyes. I used to watch this when I felt lonely, she whispered. It made the room feel alive. It's beautiful, Ben said, just like your world. She looked at him, and something passed between them. No words, just a warm silence. After a while, Lyra asked, do you think it's wrong to keep coming here? Ben thought for a moment. Only if it hurts someone. But I think this makes you happy. It does, she said. I feel safe. Here? Then it's not wrong. They talked for a long time that night. Not about the galaxy or politics or duties, but about small things. Ben told her about his home on Earth, how he used to chase fireflies in the forest. Lyra told him about a secret garden near the palace where glowing vines grew. But no one visited anymore. They laughed quietly, shared more fruit, and watched the stars. But outside Ben's door, a figure passed silently in the hallway. A servant. The servant paused, frowned, and moved on. The next morning, whispers spread through the lower halls. No one dared to speak too loudly, but curiosity grew. By the time evening came, Ben noticed something different. Two guards stood farther down the hallway, pretending to check doors. He didn't feel afraid, but he understood. Someone had noticed. That night, Lyra returned again. But she entered more carefully, her eyes darting to both sides of the hallway. Before she closed the door behind her, "Someone saw me," she said quietly. "Are you in trouble?" Ben asked, concerned. "Not yet," she replied. "But they may ask questions." "I can tell them nothing happened," he said quickly. "But something has happened," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Not something bad, something real." Ben looked at her. "You're not scared?" She shook her head. "Not when I'm here." He felt something tighten in his chest. Not pain, just something strong. "Maybe we should stop for a few days," he said carefully, "just until things calm down." She looked at him with wide eyes. "Do you want me to stop?" "Coming? No," he said honestly. "But I don't want you hurt." Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she stepped closer. "Ben," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I don't come here by mistake. I come because I feel like myself when I'm with you." He didn't know what to say. The words were simple, but they shook him more than any speech or battle cry. He nodded slowly. "Then we'll be careful. But we won't stop." Lyra smiled, this time more freely. And for the rest of the night, they sat close, sharing dreams under the starlight. Outside the palace walls, the galaxy turned. But in one quiet room, two young souls from different worlds found peace in each other. The next few days passed quietly. But something inside both Ben and Lyra had changed. They still met every night, still shared fruits and quiet stories, but now, every glance held more meaning. Every silence felt deeper. One evening, Lyra came into the room with a book in her hands. It was old and covered in a soft green cloth. "What's that?" Ben asked as she sat beside him. "A book of my people's songs," she replied. "Written before space travel, before peace treaties, before rules." Ben leaned closer. "Can you read it to me?" Lyra opened the book slowly, her fingers soft on the pages. She began to read in her language. The words sounded like flowing water and wind moving through trees, though he didn't understand the meaning. Ben closed his eyes and listened. Her voice calmed something inside him. When she finished, he opened his eyes and asked, "What was it about?" "A princess," Lyra said. "One who didn't want to marry a prince. She loved the stars and wanted to fly away, so she built her own ship and left to find her own path." Ben smiled. "I like her already." Lyra looked at the book and traced the words with her fingers. She never came back. Did she find what she was looking for? "No one knows," Lyra replied. "But they say she was smiling when she left." Ben thought about that. Sometimes leaving is the only way to become who you really are. Lyra was quiet. She closed the book gently and placed it on the table. "Ben," she said after a while, "do you ever feel like you don't belong?" He nodded. "All the time. I come from a small town on Earth. Most people in this program are top students, leaders. I'm just me. You listen," she said. "That's rare." He chuckled softly. "Maybe. But I'm not special. You are to me," Lyra said. Her voice was steady now, not shy. Ben's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her, really looked. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of something he couldn't name yet. Something that felt big. They sat quietly after that, outside the window. A small meteor shower danced across the sky. "Do you think your people would let you leave?" Ben asked, breaking the silence. "No," she answered quickly. "I'm a symbol. I don't have the same freedom. That doesn't seem fair. It isn't, she agreed. Ben leaned back. Then why don't you tell them what you really want? Because I don't fully know yet, she said. But I'm starting to understand. Being here with you, it shows me things I didn't know I needed. He didn't speak. He just nodded slowly. Later that night, Lyra stood near the door, about to leave. But instead of walking out, she turned back. What if I asked to leave all this? She said. The palace, the rules, the life I didn't choose. Ben looked at her. I'd say, make sure you're doing it for yourself, not for anyone else. What if myself wants to be free with you? Ben froze. Then, he said, softly, I go anywhere with you. Lyra smiled. Not the shy, small smile from before. This one was bright, warm, and full of hope. Then she stepped out. That night, Ben couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, wondering what he would do if Lyra truly wanted to leave everything behind. Could he take that step with her? Could they really face both of their worlds and walk a new path? He didn't know, but he wanted to try. And far down the hallway, Lyra sat in her own room, holding the songbook to her chest. For the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid of what she wanted. The palace was quieter than usual that morning, but the air was thick with tension. Ben noticed the usual servants move faster, their faces drawn and worried. The guards were no longer just pretending to watch doors, they were watching people. Ben felt a knot in his stomach. He tried to stay calm, but every sound in the hallway made him look up. His door remained closed most of the day, and when Lyra did not come that evening, he felt a sharp sting of worry. Finally, late at night, the soft knock came on his door. Ben opened it to find Lyra standing there, her eyes wide and serious. Behind her, the palace guards waited silently. Ben, she said quickly, they know. Who knows? He asked, heart pounding. About us, my visits, my being here. Ben stepped aside to let her in, closing the door gently behind her. The guards stayed outside. What will happen? Ben asked. Lyra sighed, sitting on the couch with her hands folded in her lap. My advisor found out last night. He told the council this morning. They don't like it. What do they say? That I am breaking rules. That a princess should not spend time with a human like me. Ben clenched his fists. But I haven't done anything wrong. Neither have I, Lyra said quietly. But sometimes, rules don't care about what is right. Ben looked at her, his eyes filled with both anger and sadness. They might try to stop us. They will try, Lyra agreed. Ben felt helpless, but tried to hide it. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to stand up, Lyra said, her voice growing stronger. Not just for me, but for us, for what we are. Do you think they will listen? She smiled softly. Maybe not now, but I have to try. Ben felt hope rising. I'll stand with you. Lyra's eyes met his, and for a moment, everything else faded. Then, as if sensing the danger, the guards outside returned and gently knocked again. Lyra stood quickly. I have to face them, she said. Ben took her hand. You're not alone, he said. They opened the door together. The council chamber was cold and filled with stern faces. Alien leaders from many worlds sat in tall chairs, watching Lyra closely. She stepped forward, her voice steady. I know my visits to Ben's room have caused concern, she began. But I ask you to see beyond rules, see the person I have found. A murmur ran through the room. Ben is kind, respectful, and true, she said. He listens. He sees me not just as a princess, but as Lyra. One elder stood up. Princess, your duty is to your people, your planet. These visits could endanger peace. Peace built on fear is no peace, Lyra replied. I want to build a future where we can be honest and free. Another voice spoke. And what of the humans? Can they be trusted? Ben stepped forward, surprising many. I am human, he said simply. But more than that, I am someone who cares. I am not a threat. He looked at Lyra, and I want to help build a better future with her. The room was silent. Then, slowly, a few council members nodded. Not all agreed. But the conversation changed. After hours of talk, a decision was made. Lyra would be allowed to continue her visits but under watch, and Ben would be given protection. It was not a full victory, but a start. Lyra and Ben left the chamber hand in hand. Outside, the stars shone brighter than before. "Thank you," Lyra whispered. "For what?" "For believing in me." Ben smiled. "I believe in us." As they walked back to his room, Ben realized this was more than a quiet friendship. It was the beginning of something powerful, something that could change the worlds. The days after the council meeting felt heavy for Lyra. The palace, once full of quiet warmth, now seemed colder and full of eyes that judged. The royal family gathered often to remind her of her duties, her future, and the tradition she was meant to follow. Ben saw the change in her. The light in her eyes sometimes dimmed when no one else was watching, but when they met in his room, she tried to smile, tried to hold onto the hope they had fought for. One afternoon, Ben found Lyra alone in the palace garden. The flowers glowed softly under the alien sun, but Lyra's face was shadowed. "You look tired," Ben said gently as he sat beside her. She sighed. "They want me to forget about you, to forget about this feeling. And do you want to?" Lyra looked up, her eyes full of conflict. "I don't know. Part of me wants to obey, to be the princess they expect, but another part wants to be free, to choose my own path." Ben took her hand. "What would make you happiest?" "Being with you," she whispered, "and still honoring my people." Ben nodded slowly. "Maybe you don't have to choose one or the other." She smiled sadly. "I wish it were that simple." The next day, Lyra was called to a private meeting with the queen, the woman who had raised her and watched over the kingdom for decades. The queen's eyes were sharp and full of care. "Lyra," she said, "your heart is strong, but your duties cannot be ignored. Marrying for alliance is not just tradition, it is the future of our people." Lyra nodded, swallowing her fears. "But I see the change in you," the queen continued. "You are different. The world is changing, and maybe so must we." Lyra's hope grew, but the queen's next words weighed heavy. "If you choose to follow your own heart, you must be ready to face the cost. There will be enemies, some within, some outside." Lyra met her gaze. "I am ready." Ben waited anxiously in his room that evening. When Lyra arrived, she held a small, folded note. "What is this?" Ben asked. "An invitation," she said, "to meet the council again. They want to hear my decision." Ben squeezed her hand. "Whatever you choose, I'm with you." The day of the meeting came fast, the grand chamber filled with serious faces. The council spoke of tradition, duty, and the future. Lyra stood tall, her voice steady. "I have chosen," she said, "not to follow the path laid before me blindly. One choose to walk my own." Gasps and murmurs spread. "I choose to leave the palace with Ben," she declared. "To explore the galaxy, to learn, to build a future together." Ben's heart pounded. "This is no easy path," Lyra said, "but it is mine." The council debated fiercely. Some shouted, some pleaded, but Lyra's words echoed in the room. Finally, the leader spoke. "If this is your choice, princess, then we must respect it. But know this, your life will never be the same." Lyra nodded, accepting the weight of her words. Ben reached for her hand, and together they left the chamber. Outside, the stars seemed to welcome them. The palace doors closed behind them, not as an ending, but as a new beginning. The stars stretched wide across the dark sky as Ben and Lyra stood at the edge of the palace grounds. Behind them, the great doors closed slowly, marking the end of one life and the start of another. Ben looked at Lyra. She was no longer the shy girl who had slipped into his room by accident. Now she stood strong and certain, ready for the unknown. "Where do we go first?" he asked softly. Lyra smiled. "Anywhere, everywhere." They boarded a small exploration ship waiting nearby, a simple craft, but filled with hope and possibility. As the engines hummed, Ben felt a thrill. This was their chance to see the galaxy on their own terms. As they flew away from the palace, Lyra held Ben's hand tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for believing in me." "Thank you," Ben replied, "for trusting me." Their first stop was a quiet planet with blue skies and green fields so different from the polished halls of the palace. They walked through tall grass, sharing stories and laughter. Lyra showed Ben the secret garden she had once told him about, glowing vines and soft flowers that glimmered under the sunlight. "This feels like home," Ben said. "Maybe home is not a place," Lyra answered. "Maybe it's where we are together." News of the princess who left the palace spread across many worlds. Some called her reckless, others brave. But more and more, people began to ask questions. Why must a princess be tied to a throne? Why can't she not choose her own path? Ben and Lyra received messages from aliens and humans alike, curious, hopeful, inspired. They met with travelers, explorers, and dreamers who shared their stories and dreams. Together, they formed a small group, a community of those who believed in freedom and choice. But not everyone was happy. The royal palace sent envoys, warning Lyra to return or face exile. Some of her old friends turned away, but Lyra did not waver. "I'm not running away," she said. "I'm running towards something new." Ben stood by her side. "We're building a future where we choose who we want to be." Their journey was not easy. Dangers came in the form of space storms, unknown creatures, and moments of doubt. But every challenge made their bond stronger. One night, as they watched a nebula glow in purple and gold, Lyra whispered, "This is more than I ever dreamed." Ben smiled, and it's just the beginning. They knew that many would still question their choice. But they also knew that their story was changing minds and hearts. The shy alien princess who once feared loud rooms had found her voice. The human cadet who once felt small had found his place. Together, they traveled the stars not as prince and princess, but as equals, friends, and partners. And their story became a light for others, showing that sometimes the greatest adventures begin when you follow your heart.